So yesterday, Arman Tsarukyan was filmed being kicked off of a plane. He was kicked off of American Airlines flight where he was supposed to go to the RAF press conference because he's wrestling this weekend at RAF against Uriah Faber. And he was filmed by one of his teammates or his friends, I can't exactly remember who it was, but filmed being kicked off of a plane. And this happened yesterday. However, since then there's been a lot of there's been a bit of follow-up. There's been actual quote, a statement from American Airlines themselves about the incident. They had, and also Arman Tsarukyan has responded because he got to the press conference, and at the press conference he was asked what happened, give your account. So he gave his count, and we're going to watch that as well. But here's the first clip. This is the first clip where he was originally filmed being kicked off. It has 1.9 million views on Twitter. Because I thought, might as well make a video. There's nothing else going on this week. It's Burns versus Malott. Like, who cares? So I'm making the video about this. So this was the original clip, and here it is. Now.
Просто из-за того, что кто-то из команды пользовался телефоном во время того, как самолет пытался взлететь, да, и еще второй человек открыл столик, вот из-за этого Армана и двух его друзей выгнали из самолета, из рейса, который направлялся на турнир RAF.
So yeah, that's him there. That's Arman Tsarukyan getting kicked off of the plane. I don't know who these two guys are. I think these are his friends or something like that, because it looks like he's talking to someone behind that we can't see on the camera. Presumably an air hostess or whoever, someone who works for American Airlines who's working on the plane, and he's getting kicked off, and like that's him walking away, getting kicked off, and then his friend who is recording the video says something in Russian. It's translated here on the screen, saying like, because someone was using their phone during takeoff, and that someone else opened the table. So the little tray tables in the back of an airplane seat, someone opened one of them. You can't do that, or they tell you not to do that on an airplane flight, and someone done that, and for those two reasons, the phone and the table, they got kicked off the flight. And obviously Arman Tsarukyan wouldn't be very happy about this, and he wasn't, because he's having to go to the RAF thing, the event at the weekend, do the press conference. He's got all these obligations, and he can't get the flight. He got kicked off the flight. So this is a bit of inconsistent for him, you'd think. We'll get to that in a minute. But inconsistent, or not inconsistent, what's the word again? I just forgot the word. But you know what I'm trying to say. It doesn't suit him. So, inconvenience. It's an inconvenience for him. I can't believe I forgot the word inconvenience. Anyway. So, inconvenience for him, got kicked off the plane. And then afterwards, there was footage of him actually coming out the plane. So one of his teammates must have gotten out the plane first, and they recorded it, obviously for their own safety, or not safety, but just for like proof for any legal further ups, I guess, like, because they're obviously going to take action. I presume he might take action against American Airlines for doing this, so obviously everyone's going to record and for evidence, I guess. So this guy gets, or maybe for it's just for clout, who knows. So his friend gets off and videos Arman getting off the plane, and he's quite unhappy. So this is the clip here.
So I am sorry we cannot fly because I was sitting on the board. See, I gotta tell everybody.
Yeah, we do.
I gotta tell where I'm. Okay, I cannot be tomorrow there. Sorry, guys.
So right, that's the clip. So Arman's like, he's clearly annoyed. He's getting kicked off the plane, and he's on his phone. He's obviously on FaceTime to someone. Maybe he's on FaceTime to one of the RAF guys saying, like, we're getting kicked off the plane. We're not going to make it in time. Or we're going to be delayed. So, and then there's this woman, one of the air hostesses, who just, you see someone like this, and you just know they're going to make it all about themselves. They're just going to be a complete, like, she's got the hair, and, I don't know, she's looking a bit chubby. So, there's that. And Arman says, Arman says, we're going to tell everyone. And then she's like, no, you're not. Because she just thinks he's some random guy. She thinks he's some random guy, not knowing who he is, obviously. I wouldn't expect her to know who Arman Tsarukyan is. Yeah, at the end of the day, no one's really going to know, if you're just the general public, about Arman. But, I originally saw the video and I was like, Is he getting kicked off because they think he's like some terrorist or something? Because like, you know, they're all speaking Russian, they have the funny beards. You know, is there a bomb in their backpack? You know, who, they might think whatever, but apparently it's to do with this phone thing or whatever. So she's you know, heckling back at him, saying like, "You're not gonna do anything" and all that stuff while he's getting kicked off the plane, because he obviously is annoyed. Like you can see here, he's like clearly annoyed. He's like, "Why am I getting kicked off this plane? I've done nothing." So there was that, and then next was today the American Airlines released a statement about the incident. So this is what they said. They said, quote, on April 16th, American Airlines Flight 513 returned to the gate at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, for customers who refuse to follow federal regulations. Safety is our top priority, and we expect our customers to comply with crew members' instructions while on board. Amer. Sorry. Well on board. I can't read this right now. Well on board our aircraft, which includes staying seated while the aircraft is taxiing. And if you don't know what taxiing is, that's when it's getting taken from the terminal to the runway. So it's that kind of in between part where there's like a wee little car that's kind of like driving it towards the runway before it takes off. So they must have been in that phase. And then that's when the whole thing started. It was like, you know, as I said, it was one of them was on their phone, or what we got from his friend saying one of them was on their phone, one of them had the tray table up. And that was the reason, that was the perceived reason as to why they got kicked off the flight until today, or until earlier rather, because this was today as well. Arman Tsarukyan made it. He made it to the press conference. He's at the RAF press conference, and someone asked him, you know, what happened? What happened? Because that was the big story. The big story with him being there was that he was late, obviously, but why was he late? Or rather, not why was he late. What happened? Why? What were the events leading up to him getting kicked off the plane? And this is what he has to say.
At the airplane, what did happen that they escorted you out?
So I had a team where 11 of us, we just get in the plane. It was like 3 empty seats. I asked the lady, because my seat was next to my friend, and he's a little bit big, and I said, okay, maybe there is an empty seat. So I asked the lady, can I sit here? She doesn't say yes, no. She said, where's your seat? I said, 29A, go there. I said, like, why you rude, like? And then I sit like 30A because it was empty, and then someone called to my friend. He picked up the phone, and the other my friend, he had to open his table, and she came and say, close your table. And he said like, okay, like I'll do that. And Pucho, someone called Pucho. He took the phone, and then 3 of us, we kicked out from the plane, and the other 7, they flew. And then we got the jet, and they said, bro, why didn't tell me you flying jet? After that, we would like to get out too.
So yeah, he said that there. Basically, what happened was this was from his account, is that he was in the seat. However, his friend was kind of big. His friend's, I don't know, like fat or something. Who knows? And he was like, "Can I sit in a different seat?" And he was, you know, looking about for different seats, like free spaces, like free seats. And there was a few. So he was like, he said to the person, "Can I sit here?" And she's like, "No," like in what he says is a very rude manner. So, and then he goes and sits at like another seat, like there's not his booked seat. However, it's a free seat, so like he might as well take it. So he sat in the other seat, and then at this time he calls his friend, I assume, to notify him that he's not in his allocated seat. And one of the air hostesses must have said, you know, get off your phone, because they're calling. It's not like he's on his phone, because everyone goes on their phone during the takeoff, but he's calling on the phone. So the air hostess must have got annoyed that they were like, you know, actively on a phone call with each other in the plane, because you're not supposed to do that because of the whole like Bluetooth thing with the whole airplane mode. So that happened, and I guess one of them had their tray table up as well, and they told that guy, I think that was the guy recording or some guy next to him, being like, you know, you need to put the tray table up, turn off the phone, we're taking off. And because of this, I guess because of the whole seat thing as well, I guess our man got told as well, you can't sit in that seat, you have to sit, because the woman originally said, you know, you have to sit in, what was it, 29A or whatever it was, like that's your seat, you have to sit in it. So just being really like rude, I guess. And then the 3 people that I guess Arman was next to, like it'd be a row of three, him and two other guys, got kicked off. They got kicked off the flight whilst seven of the other guys that they're with, I guess they're like a group of 10 or whatever, they all stayed. So they took off. So that happened. He got kicked off with like two other guys, and he just made a baller ass call. He made a baller ass call, called his guy, got the private jet up and running on the runway. His other friends went on like the normal, economy class to the RAF press conference, where Arman gets kicked off and he's like, making the boss call, and just gets his the billionaire call. He's making the billionaire call. Get the PJ running. So he takes the private jet to the event while his friends are on the normal plane, the normal, peasant plane. And they're like, why didn't you just tell us? We would have got off too if you're gonna get the private jet. So that's the whole ordeal up to now. So it's kind of funny because it's like this guy gets kicked off. I don't even know why he was on the normal plane in the first place, because it's like his dad's a billionaire, like he's mega rich. He's never known anything other than like crazy wealth. So I thought, why wouldn't they just get that in the first place? But who knows? Maybe there was something, they were doing something else. Who knows? Maybe his plane didn't fit the amount of people that they were traveling with. I don't know. And it's just kind of funny though, because it's just because they could just call a private jet. He just like GTA, it's like he just summons the jet out of nowhere, just spawns in jet time. It is quite baller. So that's the whole incident. Arman Tsarukyan is like he's like really, he's just everywhere now. Because he's not fighting, because obviously like the lightweight title is being contested at the White House between Gaethje and Topuria. And Arman's in this weird spot where he doesn't really need to fight, but he can't fight. Well, he doesn't need to fight any contenders because he already fought Dan Hooker as well after ostensibly earning a title shot already. Then he fought Dan Hooker. So he doesn't really need to fight, but he can't fight anyway because the title shot is going to Gaethje. So I guess he just frees him up to do all this. He's doing like the live streaming stuff with Aiden Ross and like a bunch of other stuff. He's going to all these like press conferences. This is like his third time doing the RAF. Like he fought, who did he fight again? It was that Georgios guy, and now he's fighting Uriah Faber, and I think he fought someone else beforehand as well. I'm not too sure, but he's making the most of this kind of hiatus from fighting. So it's actually kind of good to see. But this is just one of them funny things where it's like he gets kicked off of a plane and it's like goes kind of viral. So it is kind of funny, and it just reinforces his like billionaire status through his family. So it's kind of funny, but it's kind of cool as well. So yeah, that's the video. That's all I want to talk about. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out. If you disagree with any of my opinions or just give your opinion on the video in general, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you later. Bye.